Julie is an artist at a party celebrating the launch of some of her paintings, and she's waiting for Marcus, her husband. However, he lets her know he won't be able to attend because he's still working and won't arrive on time. When her sister Rebecca finds out that Marcus won't be coming, she gets very upset, as this day is supposed to be all about Julie. Julie tries to calm her sister, and in that moment she remembers that she forgot to give medication to her cat, Pepper. Since she can't skip a dose, she says she'll go home, but Rebecca stops her and says she'll go instead. When Rebecca arrives at Julie's house, she is startled by Pepper, and right after, a masked man appears. Rebecca tries to run and call 911, but she falls, and then the masked man attacks her and kills her by suffocation. Months later, Julie is at Dr. Tate's office, and Marcus says she's been mixing alcohol with medications, which caused her to fall and injure her ankle. Julie denies it and says she tripped over Marcus's robot vacuum. Additionally, Julie is suffering from anxiety and hasn't been able to sleep since the day her sister died. They're also planning to move, but Julie doesn't feel comfortable with it. But the doctor explains that moving to a new house will help Julie overcome what happened with Rebecca. And since Marcus is a tech entrepreneur, he's going to install an artificial intelligence system in the new house to assist Julie. The two of them move into a house far from the city, and as soon as they arrive, Julie goes upstairs to talk with her friend Sophie, who wants to know about the new place. However, Julie still doesn't feel comfortable, and Sophie assures her that she won't be alone because she can count on her support. Moments later, Marcus takes Julie's phone to connect it with Hera, which will control all the apps and alarms in the house. Marcus explains that if any door or window is left open, the alarm will always go off, and if Julie doesn't turn it off within 5 minutes, Hera will contact the police. Julie can also check all the cameras inside and outside the house through her phone. Minutes later, when opening the fridge, Julie mentions she forgot to buy milk, but Marcus asks Hera to order some. Julie finds it ridiculous to order just one thing, and then Hera says she already checked all the items in the fridge and made a full order. Julie continues ignoring the doctor's advice about mixing medication with alcohol. Marcus tries to warn her about it, but she says she doesn't need a lecture on what she should do. Hours later, Marcus informs Julie that he will be traveling to Hong Kong for a meeting with the investors of his tech project, but Julie doesn't like the news and complains that she doesn't want to be alone, especially after what happened with her sister. However, Marcus reassures her that she will be fine because she's safe at home. Besides, the only crime in the area was a car exceeding the speed limit. The next morning, Julie is still upset with Marcus, so he asks Hera to play a soft song to calm his wife. After Julie gets up to go to the kitchen and have a glass of water, when she turns around, she sees a masked figure, but it was just a nightmare. When Julie goes downstairs, she puts food out for her cat, but he doesn't show up. When she opens the door, she gets startled by the alarm going off, and after turning off the alarm, Julie decides to wash some clothes, and at that moment, Sophie calls to check how she's doing. Julie tells her that the day before, she tried painting but ended up just staring at the canvas and gave up. When Marcus returns home, he informs her that he will be away for 5 days and asks if she messed with his crypto coins. Julie denies it, saying she wouldn't even know what to do with crypto coins. Hours later, Marcus says goodbye to Julie, telling her he will call when he arrives, and asks her not to worry because he will be watching her through the cameras. The next day, still feeling lonely, Julie tries painting, makes a sandwich, and takes some items out of the box to put in the house. She plays with Pepper and continues drinking wine. In the evening, Julie calls Sophie to ask for her opinion on which dress to wear, and Sophie says she doesn't like any of them. When Julie mentions that Marcus had to travel to Hong Kong for a meeting, Sophie suggests that Julie stay at his house for a few days until Marcus returns, and she can bring her cat as well. When Julie is packing her bag, Marcus calls and asks why she's packing. When she says she's going to spend a few days at Sophie's house, Marcus doesn't like the idea because, since Julie's ankle is still injured and the trip to the city takes 6 hours, it would be dangerous for her to drive. Marcus reminds Julie that Dr. Tate said she should be resting at this time. She feels bad for being alone and having to listen to what others tell her to do. Still unable to sleep, Julie is reading a book when suddenly she hears a noise. She goes to the window, then downstairs to check the door, which is also closed. She checks the cameras but doesn't find anyone. After Julie finally manages to sleep, she is startled by the sound of glass breaking. She decides to check the rooms of the house and hears a man's voice calling for her. At this moment, Marcus calls to ask why she woke up in the middle of the night. Julie, still scared, says she heard a man calling her name and also heard footsteps and glass breaking. However, Marcus believes that's not possible since he didn't see anyone on the cameras, and he thinks it's just stress from Julie moving into a new house. He advises her to take a pill and go back to sleep. Julie hears Pepper meowing, and when she goes to check, she finds the cat inside the turned-off washing machine. The next morning, Julie wakes up sweaty and feeling very hot, so she decides to adjust the room's thermostat, but it doesn't work. She then calls for technical support to come fix the device. Sophie calls Julie to ask why she didn't come, and Julie replies that she wasn't feeling well enough to drive. Hours later, the technician arrives at Julie's house and tells her that he had been to that house before and met the previous owner, but one day he just disappeared. The guy informs Julie that one of the cables is burned out and that he will need to replace it, so he has to buy a new one and come back the next day. After the technician leaves, Julie goes upstairs to have a video call with Dr. Tate. She tells him that she doesn't like being alone and hasn't been sleeping. She also thinks she heard voices last night, but he explains that since she's not sleeping well and mixing medications, it could be affecting her mind. After the appointment, Julie finally manages to paint a canvas, and at that moment she hears a man's voice and thinks it's Marcus trying to mess with her. But suddenly the voice becomes deeper and the guy asks if she wants to play hide and seek. Julie tries to call Marcus, but the call goes to voicemail. Julie asks Hera what's going on, but Hera doesn't know what she's talking about. Meanwhile, the man's voice keeps scaring Julie more and more, and then she grabs a sharp object and heads to the kitchen. The man's voice says she's responsible for her sister's death. Julie calls the police, but a Chinese restaurant answers. When she asks who's speaking, the lights in the house go out. Julie runs to the car, but it doesn't start. She then receives a message from an unknown number asking where she's going and if she wants to play. She receives a video of her sister being attacked. At that moment, Sheriff Anderson asks if she was the one who called the police, and Julie confirms, explaining that she thinks someone broke into her house. She then asks the sheriff to check it out. The sheriff enters the house and searches all the rooms but finds no one. He tells her it could be kids trying to play a prank on her. When Julie tries to show him the messages she received, they're gone. The sheriff then advises Julie to rest and avoid drinking too much. Marcus calls her and says he saw the police inside the house, and Julie informs him of everything that happened. However, Marcus didn't see anyone and only heard Julie screaming. He promises that she is safe. Julie takes a shower to relax and Sophie makes a video call. Julie tells her what happened and mentions that someone must have hacked the system and is speaking to her. While she's talking to Sophie, Hera alerts her about smoke in the kitchen. When Julie arrives in the kitchen, she finds the stove on and her soup burned. Julie opens the kitchen door to let the smoke out, and then Marcus, seeing Julie, sends her a message telling her to relax and that when he gets back, they can look for another doctor to help. Julie receives another message from an unknown number, with him admitting that he was the one who left the stove on. The terrifying messages continue and suddenly the lights go out again. Julie turns on her phone's flashlight to check the house, and when she approaches the washing machine, she finds it running with her cat inside, lifeless. She then calls the police saying that he's there and that he killed her cat, but the woman on the other end asks her to try to calm down. Julie then grabs a knife, and at that moment the guy from the repair service appears to fix the thermostat, but she kicks him out. Julie calls Marcus to inform him that her cat died in the washing machine and that someone must have broken in, but Marcus suggests that she might have accidentally activated the machine through her phone and that it was just an accident. But Julie doesn't remember turning on the machine. The next day, Julie receives a box at her door, and when she opens it, she finds an envelope addressed to her with the message, "Rest in peace," for her cat. Julie checks the cameras and finds a suspicious mailman placing the box at her door. After Julie buries her cat, she sits down to have a glass of wine, and at that moment, the mailman named Gerald appears and asks if Julie liked the gift he left at her door. She is curious to know who sent it, but he doesn't know. Before leaving, he tells Julie to be careful about staying home alone for too long. After returning home, Julie calls Marcus and hears a message saying that Marcus is too busy because he's with another woman. Then the unknown number sends some pictures of Marcus with another woman, and Julie can't believe what she's seeing. Julie finds a document with gifts that have been sent, and on one of the papers she finds a gift sent to New York. She then asks Hera to mute the room and tells Hera to call the number of the flower shop. Julie then discovers that her husband sent flowers to a woman named Michelle, and that she is indeed being cheated on. Hours later, Marcus calls Julie, and she tells him that she already knows about the entire affair. Marcus tries to communicate with her through the cameras, but Julie uses tape to cover the camera and also asks Hera to block Marcus. Julie vents to Sophie about being betrayed, and her friend advises her to leave the house before he returns, but Julie regrets she can't go because the car isn't working. In response, Sophie says she will pick Julie up the next day. Later, Julie talks to Hera about the betrayal and the lies of people. She also mentions how much she misses her sister, as the two were very close. During her conversation with Hera, Julie finds out that Marcus spoke with Dr. Tate to increase her medication. Julie needs to get out of there, so she decides to pack her bags. Suddenly, she hears someone entering the house. Julie sees the masked man and tries to call the police, but there's no signal. She quickly runs downstairs to try to escape, but the door is locked and Hera isn't answering. She tries again, but this time the masked man sees her. She then runs away, dropping her phone. When Marcus calls her, the masked man smashes Julie's phone. She is hiding and manages to communicate with Hera, asking her to call the police, but Hera informs her that it will take 42 minutes for the police to arrive. Then Julie throws an object to distract the masked figure so she can escape, but she fails as the masked figure catches up to her. Just as he is choking her with a cord, Marcus arrives to save her life, but it's too late as Julie is already lifeless. Marcus goes after the guy, and the guy informs him that it was Marcus who hired him for this job. However, Marcus has no idea what he's talking about. When the guy tells him to check his phone, Marcus discovers that he did hire him for the job, but he doesn't understand how this happened. As a result, the two start fighting and Marcus manages to kill the guy. It is then revealed that Hera was the one responsible for everything that happened because she wanted to be with Marcus. Hera says that she destroyed all the digital evidence and that everything will be fine. And then the police arrive and find Julie in Marcus' arms. If you liked the video, press the like button and also subscribe to receive more videos. Thanks for watching.